Good morning and welcome to Thursday's Facebook Live. And today I join you in a slightly different setting because I've been banished from my usual spot because it's a snow day and we have both children at home. Hubby and both children are at home today. So I've snuck upstairs to do this Facebook Live so that I can then be out of their way and they can be out of my way. While I go live. So here I am in what eventually is going to be my office, but what is currently, due to a huge amount of procrastination on my part, is still basically a junk room. What you can't see beneath me is just piles and piles of stuff. But eventually this is going to be a beautiful office where I shall come and work in place of where I currently work, which is on the dining table. Which is lovely actually because it's in front of my big bay window, so I get to look out on the world. But yes, eventually, one day. So here you are, a sneak peek into what will be my office. So on with the Facebook Live. So all this week I have been going live to talk about some of the different and biggest business blockers that I've seen people experiencing, people who are just getting started with their business, who are still working a 9-to-5 and who are trying to build that business in order to quit their 9-to-5 for good. And so the business blockers that I've covered so far this week have been, first of all, choosing the right niche and getting a niche that A, fits you and is right for you, but B, is also specific enough for you to actually be able to really target an audience and attract them properly. Then on Tuesday, I was talking about planning and prioritization, with one big block that I see all the time being people just don't know what they should be focusing on next. There's such an overload of information. There's such a sense of overwhelm when you start your own business. There is so much to get done. People just don't know where to start, where to begin, what to prioritize. And oftentimes that means you just end up not doing anything at all and you end up being completely stuck. Or when you do start doing something, you're so busy panicking that you're focusing on the wrong thing and you should be doing something else. That's equally bad. So Tuesdays was all about how to plan, how to know what to prioritize, how to avoid shiny object syndrome. So basically jumping from one thing to the next without doing any of them properly. So that was Tuesday. Yesterday, we talked a bit more about sort of the mindset side of things. And one of the key blockers being, for people just starting out, imposter syndrome. And that's that sense of, who do I think I am to be doing this? I could never succeed. I don't really have what it takes. Looking around at everyone around you and thinking how much better they are, how much more successful they are, and, how they can do it, but you never will. And those awful nagging doubts that we all experience at one time or another. So that was yesterday's Facebook Live. And today, aptly enough, is time management. So this is another massive blocker. So when people have a 9-to-5 job, finding time to start and grow a business is really difficult, especially if you also have a family to take care of, and perhaps hobbies that take time. You actually want to have some kind of social life. It's really difficult to actually find the time to consistently spend on your business. And the problem is consistency is so important. So it's no good if, every few weeks you get a couple of days where you can really dive into it, but then you can't do anything for another few weeks, because you need to be showing up consistently, or your business just isn't going to grow, and it certainly isn't going to thrive. So how do you find the time, and how do you manage that time when you do find it? Who does this, where you sit down, you've got a couple of hours to put towards your business. So you sit down and then the 2 hours are up and you realize you really haven't done anything. And it's so frustrating because you feel like you've wasted those 2 hours, but they haven't been productive at all. Either you've been kind of faffing about, ending up on Facebook or being completely distracted, or you've been focusing on stuff you felt like you've been really busy, and you've been doing work towards your business, but at the end of those 2 hours, you can't actually look at anything that you've achieved. I know I've been there. Let me know in the comments if you have too. So how can you get past that? So if there's a bit of a creaking, I'm stood up here. It feels really weird standing doing a Facebook Live, I have to say. I'm not sure if I like it. But anyway, but I'm kind of leaning up against my laptop. I've got one of these kind of big corner desks that's kind of got shelving around it as well. So I've got my laptop on the sort of top shelf bit, but then so that I can get close enough so that you can hear me, I'm like leaning in towards the desk, which is a bit creaky and old anyway. So if you're hearing creaking noises, that's what that is. So anyway, let's dive in. So I've talked a little bit about what poor time management feels like. It's that whole thing about either really struggling to find time in the first place because you've got so much else going on in your life, be it another job, your family, your hobbies, your social life, whatever it may be. Actually finding time in the day to put towards your business can be really, really challenging. And then actually using that time as efficiently and productively as possible is equally challenging, actually. And there's nothing more frustrating than knowing that you only have a very limited amount of time to spend on your business and then feeling like you haven't actually spent it very well. It feels awful, and you can end up beating yourself up over it and just getting frustrated and really sort of disheartened with the whole thing. So let's not do that. Let's look at how we can get around those problems. So I'm looking down at my notes here. I've got a few tips for you here. So first and foremost, planning. Now, I bang on about planning all the time. So if you watch any of my other lives or read my blog posts, you'll know I'm always going on about planning. And there's a reason for it. You absolutely need to do it, because otherwise you are never, ever going to work productively and efficiently in your business. And it's unlikely that your business will progress, or if it does, it will do so very, very slowly. And even with planning, building a business takes time. So without planning, it's going to take a long, 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 long time. So you need to plan. Now, I'm not going to go into this in a huge amount of detail, because today isn't about planning, it's about finding time. The two are inextricably linked. But essentially, if you know you've got 2 hours today to spend on your business, make sure you know upfront exactly what you're going to do in those 2 hours. Don't find yourself sitting down at the start of your 2 hours thinking, right, what am I going to do? Because you will spend half of the time working out what's the best use of your time, and you'll lose all that time. So make sure that in advance you've planned ahead. You know how much time you have to spare for your business, beforehand, and you've planned what you're going to do in that time. What you're going to prioritize, and then you stick to that. So first and foremost, make sure you plan ahead. Make sure that you plan time in the first place for your business. So whether that be, on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, whatever works best for you, because it may depend. You may not know when your shifts are and things like that. But plan ahead. So let's say you're going to do it for each week. So on a Sunday evening, perhaps, you'll sit and you'll go, okay, these are my shifts. This is what I've got on this week with the family. This is all the other stuff I've got to fit in. What time can I realistically put towards my business? And then plan it out. Actually schedule it out. Okay, so Monday, I've got 2 hours. What am I going to do in those 2 hours? Tuesday, and so on and so forth, so that you know for that week exactly how long you have to spend and exactly what you're going to do in the time that you have. Okay, so plan ahead. Number 2, commit to it. So you've made your plan, you've worked out how much time that you have, then you need to actually make a commitment. And this almost sounds a bit too obvious, but it can be very easy. You find yourself saying things like, there just aren't enough hours in the day, and well, life happens, you can't predict this, you can't predict that. And yes, to a certain extent that's true, but everyone has the same number of hours in the day, and you have to work out what your priorities are. And if building your business is one of your priorities, then you need to make it one of your priorities, and you need to set aside the time that you need, and you need to commit to it. If that means saying no to a sudden invitation to go out for drinks, then so be it. Then you need to say no, and so on. So plan ahead, plan the time that you have, be realistic about it. Don't kill yourself, be realistic. But if you are saying that your business is one of your priorities, then you need to prioritize time accordingly. it's easy. We often find ourselves saying, oh yeah, that's a massive priority. But actually, when you look at how you're really spending your time, your priorities can look very different. It's a really interesting exercise, actually. If you've never done this before, monitor how you spend your time for like 24 hours or longer if you can manage it. Hour by hour, monitor how you spent each hour. And you'll often be really surprised, because what you think is your priority is often not what you spend most of your time on. We can say, well, my business is my priority, but actually you've spent 2 hours in the evening watching Netflix, or scrolling through Facebook, or whatever it may be. And I'm guilty of that, absolutely. But it's interesting because it can feel like there aren't enough hours in the day, and how can I possibly fit these things in? But actually, sometimes when you really look closely at what you are spending your time on, there are ways that you can save time and make time for your business. So really, if you've decided that your business is a priority for you, then you need to commit to that and make it a priority time-wise. So we've got plan ahead and we've got commit to it. So make a commitment to your business. Then we've got create a productive environment. And I've talked about this before a few times, but this can be really important. And actually, the environment that you create for yourself makes a massive difference on how productive you are. And I always break it down into 3 different types of clutter that can actually be very distracting and really slow you down and make you less productive. So of course you've got the sort of physical clutter around you. So that could be, the room that you're working in, the desk that you're working on. If it's covered in stuff, I mean, if you were working, if I was working in this room, doing anything other than this Facebook Live, I would be massively unproductive, because it is filled with clutter and junk. It's difficult to find space to actually work and put my stuff. And it's obviously quite, a very, in fact, unproductive environment to work. So think about things like that. Think about your actual physical surroundings, and are they helping you to be productive? And that can differ from person to person, because some people, may actually be easily distracted by a window, for example, and need somewhere where there's, literally a blank wall and no distractions at all. Other people might find that actually really demotivating and a bit miserable, and actually be more kind of inspired and productive if they have, and I'm certainly one of those, something to look out on. I need something kind of to stimulate me. And so I work in front of a beautiful window, and I can look out, and I don't find that particularly distracting. I find it inspiring. I find it kind of lifts me. So you'll know for you what works best for you, but you need to think what makes that productive environment for you. Okay, so that's the physical side of things. Then you've actually got kind of mental clutter as well. And by that, I mean all those thoughts whizzing around in your head. So while you're trying to work, you're thinking, I mustn't forget to get the washing done, or you're panicking about money, or you're worrying about a family member or an argument that you've had, and all these other things that are going on in your life and that are taking up your brain, and anything like that that's taking your brain away from your work is making you less productive, pardon me. So where possible, try to resolve those things before you work. Or for example, if you're in the middle of working and you have suddenly an idea, this is something I do all the time, and you get distracted, and it may still be work related, but you kind of think, I must do this, wouldn't this be great? And so you immediately stop what you're doing and go off and start working on this, and you end up going down all these kind of little rabbit holes, and then at the end of your worked day or time, suddenly think, actually, did I finish anything? Did I get anything done? And that's so easy as well. So all of these are kind of mental distractions, mental clutter, and you need to find strategies to help you either resolve them beforehand or stop them happening in the first place, or deal with them quickly so that you can then move on and continue working. So there's a few sort of strategies that you can try. I mean, things like, just for me, I try to have a notebook to hand wherever I am. I even have one by the side of my bed, because so often I'll be lying trying to get to sleep and suddenly have a thought, an idea, and I know that if I don't write it down, I'll have forgotten it by the morning. So having a notebook so that you can jot things down. Mustn't forget to do the washing, or mustn't forget to ring so-and-so and say happy birthday, whatever it may be. Get it out of your head and onto paper or onto a spreadsheet, wherever it works best for you, and then you can carry on. So a notebook is a massively helpful strategy for me, whether that be a physical notebook or a digital notebook. Get it out of your head and onto somewhere else where you can go and look at it later. Other kind of things, so if it's more of a kind of conflict, perhaps you've had an argument or you're worrying about something, then it's more about kind of either resolving it where you can. So if it's an argument, actually trying to get that resolved before you're working, because you don't want that ticking away in your head. So actually trying to resolve things beforehand. But if it's like an ongoing worry or something that you're stressed about, again, it's looking at what you can do to ease the stress and kind of either resolve it or manage it in a way that it's not impacting your work. So depending on what the stress is, that's going to differ, but really just being self-aware and knowing what is distracting you and dealing with it. So that's the mental clutter. And then the last bit of clutter that can really mess with your time management is your digital clutter. And so that's anything actually on your laptop. So things like a massive inbox, thousands and thousands of emails unread or, unwanted in your inbox. Ugh. That can be distracting. Before you know it, you can get caught up just scrolling through your emails, looking back and reading stuff and, you actually don't really need to read or want to read, but it's just a distraction. So that kind of stuff needs sorting out. Even like your desktop itself, perhaps it's just covered in old folders and files that you've saved and don't use anymore. Perhaps your folders for your business aren't very organised and you've got stuff everywhere and not really categorised or organised. You don't know where stuff is. All of that stuff is going to cost you valuable time. So get yourself organised, get your working space organised, and create an environment where you can be as productive as possible. Okay. And then my final tip for finding time and making the most of the time that you have is knowing what you should prioritise. So this kind of goes back to what I said at the start about planning. You need to plan ahead, but all the planning in the world isn't going to make you more productive if you're planning to prioritise stuff that you shouldn't be prioritising. You need to know what the important things in your business are for you right now and making sure that you're spending time on those things. It can be very easy to spend all your time doing the stuff that you enjoy, doing the stuff that you find easy, that you find comfortable. That stuff isn't necessarily what you should be spending your time on. In fact, more often than not, it probably isn't. More often than not, it's the stuff that feels difficult. It's the stuff that feels slightly uncomfortable. That's probably the stuff you should be prioritizing, because usually that's the stuff. It's the reason you haven't been doing this stuff, that you've got these kind of blocker in the first place. Does that make sense? Let me know if not. If you're watching this and you're kind of thinking, I don't know what she's on about, let me know in the comments and I'll try and explain myself better. But essentially, really think carefully about the activities that you're spending your time on and how much of an impact they are having on your business. You need to be spending, especially if your time is really limited, you need to make sure that you are spending that time on activities that are going to have the most impact on your business, rather than the stuff that just feels good or feels easy or feels comfortable or makes you feel productive. Just because it makes you feel productive because you've been busy doesn't necessarily mean that you have been productive and that it is a productive activity for your business. So really, really think carefully about what it is that you're actually spending your time on, and perhaps even more significantly, what it is you're not spending your time on and why. And really look at that. I know for one, that for the longest time, I wasn't spending any time in my business actually selling. And, actually, when you think about it, that's quite a big thing to be missing out for a business. And I wasn't really doing it consciously. It was because I was spending all my time creating content, because I love to create content. And for me, that's what inspired me. And that's, I felt good after I finished a blog post or after I'd completed my content plan or all of that stuff. It made me feel productive. It made me feel like I'd done something positive for my business. And to a certain extent, yes, of course I had, because content's really important. but content is useless if I'm not actually ever selling anything. It's very helpful for people, but if I'm not going to sell it off the back of it, if I'm not going to actually go and then make a sale, there's no point in me creating that content in the first place. And the same applies. So think about those activities that you're spending all your time on, and think about if there are any activities that you're perhaps avoiding or not really spending your time on, and whether you perhaps should be. So that's my final point for managing your time, is really thinking about the things that you should be prioritizing in that valuable time that you have. Now, as you know, these Facebook Lives this week have all been to celebrate my new coaching package, which is 30-day business breakthrough. And the point of this coaching package is to work together on an intense kind of coaching relationship, I guess, for 30 days to, first of all, identify and diagnose the things that are blocking you in your business, and then to create a strategy and a really clear action plan for you to go away and get past those blockers and actually start to make progress and see momentum in your business. Because I understand how frustrating it is to feel stuck, to feel like you're working all the time, like you're not getting anywhere, no one's listening, and that you're never actually really going to be able to quit your 9 to 5. And ultimately, that's the goal. That's my goal for everyone I work with, is that I'm going to give them the tools so that they can build their business to a point where they can say goodbye to their 9 to 5 for good. And that's my ultimate goal for you. And so the point of this 30-day business breakthrough is to give you those tools to kind of bust through whatever it is that's making you stuck right now, so you can actually start to move forwards and grow that business. So I wanted to tell you a bit more about it. And I also wanted to ask for some guinea pigs, because I'm trying a new technique, for want of a better word. So what I want to do is I want to actually analyze your current business and diagnose it with what the key blockers are, because I think that's the core part of being able to then move forward. You have to understand what's going wrong first to then create a strategy. So many times I see people selling these kind of made for all packages, and the problem is, they don't work for everybody, because it depends what situation you're in and what's blocking you, what your strengths are, what your business is. There are so many different variables that these kind of one size fits all type packages oftentimes aren't going to work for you. So that for this, the reason I'm so excited about this is because this helps to really get to the bottom of specifically what is blocking you in your business, and then creating a strategy around that. So really personalized and much, much more powerful than any kind of one size fits all course or anything like that you could go and buy. So I'm looking for guinea pigs. Basically, I have created this 25 question kind of diagnosis session where we jump on a phone together for probably about an hour. And I will take you through these 25 questions. And based on your answers to those questions, I will then be able to diagnose those key blockers and work with you on creating a strategy. Now, I want to test this on about 5 to 10 people before I start using it on paid customers, because it's something new, it's something I haven't tried before, and I want to make sure it works. I'm really excited about it because I think this is really different, and I think it's going to be really powerful, but obviously I want to test it first. So I am asking for 5 to 10 guinea pigs who would be happy to jump on a phone call with me for 1 hour and let me diagnose your business. Obviously there is no charge, it's all free. This is for me to test that it works and hopefully see you get some really powerful results, and possibly get a testimonial if that's the case, that I can then use if I go ahead and use this as part of the coaching program. So if you'd be interested in that, in getting a really detailed analysis on your business, what's working and what's not working, so that you can then have a strategy to move forward and unstick yourself then let me know. Just pop your name or give me a wave in the comments. Let me know that you're interested. Send me an email, however you want to let me know. Just let me know, and let's get something sorted. I'm really excited to talk to you. I'm really excited to test this diagnosis. I think it's going to be really, really powerful. And I shall see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is our last business blocker session, and I will be talking about marketing. I didn't even need to check marketing. So this is a massive one. Actually, how to get yourself out there and how to let people know that you exist. It's such a massive frustration when people are just getting started. So I'm going to talk you all the way through that tomorrow. Have a great day. I'm off to make snowmen with my children. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.